What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the JPG channel. This is going to be a bit of an unorthodox episode because we're going to be going through what 2025 would have looked like if I was, able to be a full-time content creator this year. We'll just spare you the details, just let you know that life was life, and for sure this year, a lot of variables. Kept me from being a content creator full time for this year, like I have been the last 2 years. But we're trying to get back in 2026. But obviously, we were building towards SummerSlam. I am recording this in January 2026, so obviously we fell way behind, and it doesn't really make sense for me to continue, all the way from SummerSlam and trying to get to the Royal Rumble in in time for WrestleMania season. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do like almost a bit of a live simulation of just the pay-per-view, show you exactly what my ideas were throughout 2025, starting with SummerSlam, of course. And then we're going to continue on from the first Monday Night Raw of the first week of January, leading into the Royal Rumble, because we're pretty much on the timeline of like real life at that point. Then we're trying to make WrestleMania either before 2K26 comes out or the last few episodes of 2K25. So either way, neither here nor there. We're going to jump right into SummerSlam. The plans for SummerSlam we were heading into, and it is actually a 2-night event. So we're going to show you the card for what both nights of SummerSlam was going to look like in 2025. All right, let's start our show here. Yes, here we go, folks. This was the first card of night one of SummerSlam. We had Stephanie Vaquer taking on the Boss, Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, whichever one you want to call it. We were building up to that. Obviously, Stephanie Vaquer won the Queen of the Ring tournament. At the last episode I would really make is the King and Queen of the Ring show. Sasha Banks, of course, had been on a tear all universe mode, and the plans were for Vaquer to finally dethrone Banks. So that would have been Vaquer's crowning moment over the Boss. Moving on, we would have had this incredible triple threat tag team match, building up, of course, of the last couple of months, DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, and the Undisputed Era. And this one was going to be a toss-up. I was going to let it play out however I would have played out live. So we're going to do that by simulating at random. So we're going to see who walks out the World Tag Team Champions, or who would have walked out World Tag Team Champions, therefore. And indeed, it would have been DIY retaining. Very interesting there. I thought Strong and O'Reilly would have actually would have grabbed that one for sure. This one would have been. This is one that I was looking forward to a lot on SummerSlam card. Oba Femi versus Braun Breaker, and Breaker was planned to drop the championship at SummerSlam, so we're gonna make Oba our winner. Oba was going to go on to have a monstrous tear throughout the year of 2025 as the Intercontinental Champion. Speaking of the Intercontinental Championship, the Women's Intercontinental Championship was going to be decided for the very first time ever on the JPG channel in a 5-way ladder match. These are the competitors that were going to win the tournament that was supposed to come through the few weeks heading into SummerSlam. We had Io Sky, Lyra Valkyria, Liv Morgan, Mariah May, and Tiffany Stratton. And we're going to actually, again, randomly simulate this because I didn't have any sort of plans as to who I wanted to be the first Women's Intercontinental Champion. I was going to let it play out the way, any multi-woman or man match would have. And it looks like Liv Morgan would have been our very first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. We were building up to Seth Rollins versus Uncle Howdy for a while, almost from the first SmackDown after WrestleMania. This has always been a plan for SummerSlam. So we're going to see exactly how this one plays out. believe maybe Rollins picks up the victory, maybe Howdy. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yes, Seth freaking Rollins able to conquer his demons and overpower the powerful entity known as Uncle Howdy, a man carrying on his late great brother Bray Wyatt's legacy. And our main event of night one would have been Ilya Dragunov versus the phenomenal one AJ Styles. Truly a banger to close out night one. This would have been an incredible match to play myself. I don't know. Later on, I might do an episode if you guys want me to throughout like the next few pay-per-views that I show you the plans of. Maybe we'll do a special episode where I play one match from each of these cards. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something like that. I could probably make something like that work out. Either way, so we're going to simulate this one. This one right here. I feel like I probably would have had Ilya go over because I wanted Ilya to, have a pretty great run with the World Heavyweight Championship. So I believe we're going to actually have him defeat AJ Styles. And then after that, of course, we lead right into night two. All right, night two of SummerSlam. We're here. Where we were starting things off with Jade Cargill, who would have been actually coming in as women's world heavyweight champion, cashing in after a rematch against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, and that would lead to a triple threat match between Cargill, Ripley, and Belair, which here. Oh, I accidentally deleted it. But we'll just say I was gonna simulate the match and just to see who would win, but we'll call it Jade Cargill retaining for now. It's fine. I see we're still in editing. That's why. Anyways, we're going to start our show finally. All right, next thing we would have been with Fatu and Sikoa for the United States Championship. Obviously, we were building kind of the story that Jacob Fatu could, find his own success on his own 2 feet, and Solo Sikoa would have been eventually kind of jealous of that, kind of like the story that played out in real life this past year. And these guys would, the collision course would have been SummerSlam, and over there, definitely would have been Jacob Fatu retaining over Solo Sikoa and continuing his reign as United States champion. Moving on, the tag team championship match on the SmackDown side would have seen the Tongans, the returning Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, taking on Jay and Jimmy Uso, also returning as a tag team for the first time, really since the conception of this universe mode almost. Obviously would have been an incredible match. The Tongans would have defeated the Wyatts on a SmackDown episode to make sure that they are the champions heading into this match, and they would have been running through a tear on the SmackDown tag team division until Jimmy and Jay eventually stepped up and challenged them to a SummerSlam match. This one would have been the Usos once again finally becoming tag team champions, almost similar to what just happened a few weeks ago in IRL with the Usos finally becoming tag team champions, but we had that in the plans long before we saw that live, Anyways, Julia and Jordan Grace, they had a handful of matches that I was able to upload, and it would have led to the championship being on the line at SummerSlam. Here, I believe, I would have had Julia retain. It would have been a good match, but I would have had Julia retain for sure. Moving on. From that, we had a 4-way tornado tag that would have been decided over a series of weeks throughout, kind of like a bit of a mini tournament. Obviously, Perez and Jade have been feuding with Kiana James and Brianna Brandy of Boss Corporation for a little while now, but that would have also inserted 2 newer tag teams on the SmackDown and Raw side: Chemical X, Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, and Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. This over here, this right here would have seen. We'll simulate it. Why not? Like I said, we'll probably would have seen Team 2001, Perez and Jade finally get their championships back, but we'll see who actually earned this match. And it looks like, indeed, Team 2001 would have gotten their championships back there. And the main event, another one that I was really looking forward to, Punk, Rhodes, Cena would have been the build-up. And for this one right here, obviously Cody Rhodes wanted his rematch against John Cena ever since WrestleMania, ever since he felt like he, got absolutely annihilated by Cena to become the 17-time world champion, whereas Punk still had unfinished business with both Rhodes and Cena. That would have kind of, been told over a story in a number of weeks. And over here, between Rhodes, Cena, and Punk, I would have had CM Punk walk out as the winner. So that is the card for SummerSlam. Moving on, I believe we would have been at the Bash in Berlin or Clash at Paris, whichever one you want to call it. And we are going to see in just a few moments exactly what that card would have looked like. All right, on the Clash card, as you can see, I don't know why the American flag is in the background, but we'll ignore that. But moving into, we're going to be continuing the rivalry between the Usos, Jacob Fatu, and Solo Sikoa's version of the Bloodline, now known as the MFT, just like in real life. This would lead into a 6-man tag team match to open our show. We are going to simulate that. I'm assuming the Usos and Fatu go over here. Oh, Sikoa and the Tongans with a victory. MFT is picking up a victory over Jay, Jimmy, and Jacob Fatu. This would have been one hard-hitting match that we've seen before, but not for the Intercontinental Championship. This is Obafemi's first title defense, and he would have been walking away with that victory over Konosuke Takeshita. Moving forward, in an attempt to get the championships back to Boss Corporation, or Banks Corporation, I should say, Sasha Banks and Mariah May, an all-star tag team, would team up to Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, but would fall short after miscommunication from Banks and Mariah May, which would we'll see where that story goes further down the line, folks. But either way, Team 2001 with the victory in the women's tag team match. And then next up, we have Vaquera's first title defense versus Io Sky. This match here, Vaquera would go on to defeat Io Sky. However, Sky is going to have a major bounce back on our next pay-per-view in a rematch between these two ladies. DIY, UE, like the third time these guys would have been facing off. This would have been 2 out of 3 falls, and this would have seen O'Reilly and Strong finally becoming the tag team champions. In our main event, after the events of SummerSlam, when Punk walked out with the championship, that would cause Cody Rhodes to sort of start to spiral a little bit, almost kind of venturing in between that tweener babyface heel syndrome that we've kind of seen Cody dive into in real life. Rhodes and Punk no holds barred match, and Punk would go on to retain over Cody Rhodes. That would be all we had for Clash in Paris. Moving forward to our next event, which would be WrestlePalooza. WrestlePalooza we are at now, folks, and starting the show would have been the EST Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. Finally one-on-one after all this time, after Cargill cashed in that briefcase on Belair. This one right here, Cargill would have been walking away with the victory over the EST to retain her Women's World Championship. Moving forward, Roman Reigns, the return of Roman Reigns would have been leading up into WrestlePalooza. Obviously, WrestlePalooza was, in real life, a big show that WWE was building up to and wanted huge names on, so we would have been doing the same. Roman Reigns returning to the ring against Solo Sikoa. However, it would not be Roman Reigns' night, because this would be the night that not only JC Mateo would debut, but also Tala Tonga to add to Solo Sikoa's MFT, and earning Solo Sikoa a huge victory, almost upset victory, over Roman Reigns in the process. Continuing that story with the MFTs versus, I guess, the OG bloodline in a way. Obafemi with another successful title defense over Penta this time. That one would have been an incredible match in ring as well. Femi on a tear throughout the IC title division. This is the match we were talking about when we were talking about Clash in Paris. Vaquero got one over Io Sky. Sky would walk away with the victory, this time becoming the brand new Women's World Champion, WWE Women's Champion, I should say. Moving forward, to try and attempt to settle this rivalry once and for all, it is the Tongans versus the Usos in a TLC tag team match for, of course, the WWE Tag Team Championships. And this one right here would have the Usos retaining again. In our co-main event, we would have seen Drew McIntyre, now a Monday Night Raw superstar, taking on CM Punk. Of course, a classic rivalry in real life would have came to fruition here on the JPG channel, with Punk's second title defense successful against Drew McIntyre. And in the main event of WrestlePalooza, of course, if you're looking for big names on the show, the big names does not get any bigger than John Cena himself. He would have been taking on the World Heavyweight Champion Ilya Dragunov in Cena's final attempt to reclaim World Championship gold before the end of the year, and a callback to the last two remaining superstars in this past year's Royal Rumble. Of course, we saw Cena eliminate Dragunov, Dragunov actually eliminating John Cena to go on to become world champion at WrestleMania. Cena was looking for a measure of revenge here in the main event, but fell short to the Mad Dragon, Ilya Dragunov, retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. That would do it for WrestlePalooza. And next we have Survivor Series, I believe. On to Survivor Series War Games. And of course, that would obviously mean that there are two War Games matches, as always, a women's and a men's. The show opening with the women's War Games match, a rivalry and a story that's been being told all throughout the year on the JPG channel in 2025, if we got through the entire 2025. But even the shows that I did upload, you would kind of be able to see where I was going with the Women's War Games match. Bayley and Becky Lynch starting off the year, feuding with Banks Corporation. Obviously had Kiana James and Brianna Brandy's debut match back at Backlash. Of course, siding with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez, Team 2001. Obviously having their own issues with Banks Corporation, losing the championships, regaining the championships, so forth. And a little bit of a flip side from last year's War Games match, when it was Becky and Bayley on the opposing side versus like the newer generation of Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade's team. And then, of course, we have Banks leading the fray in this one. I believe, if we had the issue a team captain, it'd probably be like Becky Lynch on the face side. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and simulate this match, and this one would be another fray in the Banks Corporation sort of build up to kind of fracturing a little bit, and this one would have seen a victory, and I'm going to give Roxanne Perez the pinfall victory over a member of Banks Corporation. So the crack's still starting to show between, obviously we saw Mariah May and Sasha Banks lose to Team 2001, the last pay-per-view. Now they're losing a big 4-on-4 War Games match. On to Io Sky's first title defense versus a woman she knows all too familiarly in Asuka. Io Sky would walk away with the dub here as well. And further on her championship reign. Ilya Dragunov would have his hands filled with the Harbinger of Doom, Karrion Kross. If you remember, Kross won the men's Money in the Bank ladder match this year, to the shock of almost me and everybody else. But this would be kind of Kross cashing in his briefcase, his opportunity, man-to-man, wanting to earn the World Championship, sort of the way Ilya Dragunov did against Gunther last year. But Kross would fail this time around, so a failed cash-in attempt. Ilya Dragunov with the victory over the former men's Money in the Bank briefcase holder. CM Punk would have his hands filled with the former Intercontinental Champion, Braun Breaker, or however this has been building out in real life as well. This one would definitely be a clash of two different styles, just like we saw on the premiere episode of Monday Night Raw of 2026. But just like we saw on that episode as well, Punk walking away with the victory over Braun Breaker. And in our final match of Survivor Series, obviously on the men's side, a rivalry that's been building up almost all throughout the year. The little like a version 3 of the Bloodline: Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and Jacob Fatu taking on Solo Sikoa, Tongaloa, Tamatonga, and Talatonga of the MFTs. This one right here is giving the win to the Bloodline, with Jacob Fatu getting a pinfall victory over Solo Sikoa. And that would indeed close out Survivor Series. We have one small card left, the Saturday night's main event that we're about to get to. Right, this would have been the last show of 2025, Saturday night's main event, closing off 2025 year on the JPG channel with a banger of a match card. Opening the show, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes taking on CM Punk one final time, the culmination of their rivalry inside a solid steel cage. The WWE Championship on the line. This one here would see CM Punk again with the victory over Cody Rhodes. Moving on from there, and a callback to the very first Women's United States Championship match this past year at Backlash, Tiffany Stratton versus Julia on Saturday night's main event. This one right here, again, Julia able to overcome the center of the universe. Jay and Jimmy facing some fresh face in the tag team division. Trick Mello gain. Trick now a member of the SmackDown roster. Previously over there on Raw for a little while, but got signed to SmackDown now. Over with Carmelo Hayes to try and attempt to take those championships off the Usos, but would fail in the process as Jimmy and Jay proved to be one of the best tag teams in the world. This match right here, Sasha Banks' almost final attempt to get her championship back before the end of the year. Although this match would have seen the betrayal of Mariah May, now going by Blake Monroe, on Sasha Banks, costing Sasha the match and awarding the victory to Io Sky. And in the final match of his career, the never seen 17, the greatest of all time, John Cena, in a passing of the torch moment, would lose to the badass Braun Breaker to close out 2025. Braun Breaker, obviously the superstar of the future, and Cena recognizes that as well, as now Breaker has a ton of momentum heading into 2026, having been not only the final opponent of John Cena, but the man to defeat him in his last match ever. And with that being said, folks, we are going to pick up on the Monday Night Raw, the first Monday Night Raw of 2026. In real life, we're about like a week late from what the first Raw was, but that will be uploaded pretty soon. Just wanted to give you guys a brief rundown of what 2025 could have looked like, would have looked like if I was able to, be a full-time content creator this past year. We hope to get back on track in 2026. Like I said, starting with that first Monday Night Raw episode, 4 weeks build up to Royal Rumble, then we're heading off to WrestleMania season. Should be a fun time. As always, I will see y'all on the next one.